Hello, everyone. This is Chala, CEO and founder of the Repositioning Expert, coming to you live with another Tuesday Tea Time with Chala. I am back from the gym. It's like a gym look today, so you will have to excuse me. And still, it's kind of like hot outside, so we're good to go. I'm having my protein because the vacations and the travel have not been kind to the weight loss and the fat loss phase. So I'm just trying to reel it back in. And protein really keeps you full and helps the muscles and all of those wonderful things. I want to know how many people started drinking protein just because of watching these Tuesday Tea Time with Chalas. So I want to hear about that. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Why your pitch might be hurting your credibility. Now, when I say pitch, I'm talking about the kind of pitch that's the elevator pitch, which is when you meet someone and you introduce yourself to them and you have like 30 seconds to a minute to gain their attention, get them to ask you for their card or for more information to be able to work with you because you have been able to, your message was sticky enough to attract their attention enough to give you a second chance of a meeting or an appointment or an introduction, something that relates to them. So this is not the kind of pitching that is done for investors. This is not the kind of pitching that is done like long sales meetings and pitches. That's not what this is. This is simply, what do you do? And you're in front of a prospect and you literally have 30 seconds to a minute to be able to tell them what you do. And that's what's called the elevator pitch. So now, having heard, I don't know if I can say thousands, but at least hundreds of them throughout my 18 years working in the corporate world, being a buyer of services for large corporations like Pepsi, Pizza Hut, Frito-Lay. And then now for the past 12, 13 years, being specialized in helping small businesses figure out what their elevator pitch should be, I feel really qualified. And just having gone through so many conferences in the last month and so many events and going to 2 more in September, I feel really confident that I can help you, determine where your pitch might be hurting your credibility, because I have absolutely seen this happen. I've seen it time and again, and it hurts because you spend so much time, money, growing your business, growing your team. You spend more money to try to get, if you're a diverse business certified, and then you bring you and your team and show up and invest all your time and your money in front of these buyers, these corporate buyers that you hope are going to change the trajectory of your life and your business for you. And then you show up and it doesn't work. So that's what I'm trying to change. So here's how I see companies using their elevator pitch and where it might be hurting their credibility. And again, please, don't take any offense. This is all just my 2 cents. I'll just put it on the table and you can determine whether that fits you or not. So it's not meant to offend anyone. It's not meant to make anyone cry in a corner. It's really just to help. So the first thing that I see businesses do, CEOs and whoever's doing the elevator pitch do about their business, is to confuse the prospect. So when your elevator pitch is confusing your prospect, it's hurting your credibility. Here's how I've seen it. When you mention a laundry list of services that you do, people that you help, it's too much. And there's something called, in fact, I've written about this, I've talked about this, it's called the paradox of choice. When there's too many choices, when they did it's called the jam test, where in a supermarket shelf, they put 6 different jams versus just the 2. And people actually bought more of the 2 option versus the 6 because they were just paradox of choice. They couldn't, it stops them from being able to make a decision. So, we face that with movies. When you're, scrolling through which movies to watch on Netflix, you face this every day on the shelves. And, this book was written, I don't know, decades ago, and they were talking about the proliferation of the brands on the shelf and how bad this paradox of choice was. But you're delivering that right to right to them when you're laundry listing a whole bunch of things to do. So what I teach instead is to figure out where in the market, in that industry, is the biggest pain, which is the facet of the pain that you need to position yourself in, depending on a whole bunch of criteria. And what can you say in that 30 seconds to position yourself as an expert in that so that you're not confusing them? So that's number one way that I see your pitch is confusing the prospects. Another one is made up categories. So specifically for categories that are where people, you do your elevator pitch, they're oversaturated, your industry is oversaturated, and the buyers are just glazing over, one, because they already have multitudes of that industry working for them, or they've seen so many, they've been pitched by so many of that industry that they just don't want to deal with them anymore. They just don't see a differentiator. And remember, 86% of buyers think you're the same. They see no difference between two companies in the same industry. So some that come to mind, like B2C, would be mortgage brokers, realtors, even lawyers. And for the B2B, it's staffing companies, it's marketing companies, it's agencies, it's IT companies. Like, it's very hard. It's just, these are oversaturated, right? So what I've seen companies try to do to get over that, which is not, I don't think it's the right thing to do, is they create these weird made up categories. So like, one of the examples of, I heard something like internal delight specialist, and it was like a staffing company, or internal engagement specialist. So like, or like these are made up categories. You need to just own up to the fact that you have a staffing company, and whatever you call it, recruiting, staffing, whatever the term is, you have to commit to being something in their box in the buyer's head that they understand. Now, how you differentiate that is what we specialize in, blah, blah, blah. And then you talk about the very pain and the very industry that you specialize in. And if we've done our job together, if we're working together as a strategist, we would have taken a very different differentiator. We would have specialized in something nobody else in the market seems to be specializing in, to set you apart. But you don't make up a category and confuse people, because that is super confusing to me. And just because, and I know that CEOs and founders who have done this feel like it's working, because they say that, it awakens intrigue in the buyer, where the buyer is saying, oh, tell me more about that, or, oh, that sounds interesting. Oh, what does that mean? But it really just another way of saying you're confusing me. And sometimes you have that luxury of being able to explain it the second time, but you'll see in the next, why your pitch, the next, the point that I've made, why your pitch might be hurting your credibility, is that people don't have the bandwidth and the attention to be able to spend that much time understanding your business. They have no interest in it. Maybe out of politeness, they're saying that, but they've checked out. So please don't make up categories. Figure out your actual specialty and figure out what you're a specialist in. And then, vet that. Don't just throw spaghetti at the wall and make up stuff, because you're going to lose time and money if you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and trying to figure out what's the best thing. So don't make up the category. That'll confuse them. So the first thing that I said that confuses people is the laundry list of, we do this, we do this, we do that. We do it for all these different people. That confuses. The second is the made up category. And the third one is being a generalist. So if you're just like, categorically, oh, we're a marketing company, or, oh, we're just an IT company, like that also confuses people. I mean, they're like, okay, yeah, so what do you really do, or what can you do for me, kind of thing. So don't confuse them. Know exactly why you're talking to them and what you're helping them solve. And lastly, why I see pitches might be hurting your credibility and confusing people is that you're using acronyms. Stop using acronyms. Stop using your own industry terminology. Use their industry terminology. So for example, when I used to work with coaches, they often use like, are you stuck? Like, if you're talking to an executive and they don't view being stuck, like they don't see themselves as being stuck, they see it as, oh, it's not bringing ROI. Use the ROI, like use their language. Don't use your own coaching language. And that's true for any acronym. Like, I don't use acronyms. I don't want my clients to use any acronyms, even if it's in that industry. because it makes you like, if that person in that role, so let's say it's not the buyer, but it's the diversity officer, you're going to lose them. They're not going to know what that means. You're going to lose them. They're going to feel too embarrassed to ask, and your message is not going to make it across. So instead, be concise, do the research, know your niche, know the pain that you help, and then address that. Okay. So let me talk to you about, I'm just looking at my drink. Okay, the next point is, please don't use your pitch to educate them. So I've seen pitches where it's like so long because you feel like you have to like teach them something. You have to educate them. You don't have to educate anyone. The only thing you have to convey in your elevator pitch is that you're an expert. What are you an expert in? And that you're an expert in their problem. And how do you do that? So instead of giving them a lecture where you will definitely lose their interest because it's going to be way too big and they didn't ask for that, and maybe it's not even them and they don't really care. What you do is you communicate your expertise with statistics around their pain in their industry, because they're going to either know about this problem and be very attuned and hooked in to listening to what you're saying, or by the mere fact that you're stating the statistic about their industry, if they don't know it, they're going to listen even closer to find out more about what they should know about their industry and how you can help. So instead of educating them about the how, educate them about the what. So don't give a whole lecture and education about in your pitch around how to solve that problem. Instead, talk about what is the problem and why is it a problem, and use statistics to be able to do that. Okay. And that's what I teach with the formula of the powerful elevator pitch that we talk about. Okay. So the next point is your elevator pitch might be hurting your credibility if you look like a rookie. And when do you look like a rookie? When you're super nervous about doing the elevator pitch and you're unsure about it. So a lot of people ask me, Chala, should I be changing my elevator pitch to every different company that I speak to? And, if you're in a situation where you're sitting, in different tables at different industries in one event, just like how most of these diversity events are, I still don't recommend that. What I recommend is I want you to have, and I'll tell you the story of my clients who, for years and years, they'd been going to these procurement events and they weren't getting anything back. But this year, because they were working with me, we honed them in on one industry and one problem. And even though they had 10s and 15, 16, 10, whatever, like 20, how many times can I say 10? They had lots of opportunities to sit with lots of companies, but they only chose the one industry. And there was enough of a representation in that room, in that industry. And they were giants. And we focused on a very painful, very costly pain that they could help with. And they literally sat at every one of those, I think it was like 4 or 5 of those tables of that industry. And they got, I think, 3 NDAs signed on the dot as soon as they sat down and introduced themselves. And that's what I want for you. And that's what the true meaning of an elevator pitch is. Not only does it prove your credibility, but they want to lock you in, lock you down, and give you an appointment right then and there and introduce you. Okay. So don't look like a rookie. Know exactly what you're going to say. Stop changing it. Stop going to like too many different industries. Figure out where your niche is, figure out who your people are, and then go talk to them like you know what you're talking about. Have it strategically honed and polished, and go practice it if you're nervous. But in my experience, once a company leader and a company, representative knows exactly what their specialty is and where their shine is and who their people are, they are way more productive and secure in being able to deliver that elevator pitch. Okay. So the last one is entertain. So your pitch might be hurting your credibility if you're trying to entertain the prospect. Now, what do I mean by that? Making a buyer smile or even laugh by telling, having a rhyme in your elevator pitch, or having a cute story in your elevator pitch, or even a joke. That's all fine and dandy and great. But in my experience, it could get a smile, but it doesn't get a meeting. What does get a meeting is get down to business, know what you do, how you know who you're talking to, know the industry, know their problem, tell them what the problem is, tell them why it's a problem, tell them how you help solve the problem. Very briefly in 30 seconds to a minute. And if you have even just a bit longer because you're at a matchmaking meeting instead of just a roundtable, you can give them stories of actual clients who were in the same industry, in the same kind of pain that you helped, how you helped, and what their results were. Don't tell cutesy stories. Don't entertain. You can be your funny self if you want. You can be charismatic, but to have a pitch just to entertain because you think it's memorable and you think it's the hook, I think hurts your credibility. So get down to business, get down to brass tacks, know their problems, and talk to them. So I'm always constantly telling you the same thing. I will teach you this until I die over and over again. If you don't know their problems, if you don't know who you're talking to, you are hurting your credibility every time you open your mouth, whether that's your pitch or whether it's networking or whether it's an actual longer pitch where you're constantly talking about yourself. Stop doing that. Oh, that would have been a number 6. Your pitch would be hurting your credibility if all you do is talk about yourself and talk about your, how many employees you have, how many regions you serve, how long you've been in business. Like nobody cares about that. That is just blending you in with everybody else. I can't say that it's hurting your credibility, but it's certainly not helping you land the meeting. But the first 5 that I definitely talked about, I feel very strongly can be hurting your credibility. So I hope that helps. I'm going to take one last swig. And I'll see you next week, guys. All the best.